It still doesn't work quite right.
Yeah,
Okay. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Lore Lodge. This is gonna be a bit more of a chill stream. Definitely not because I'm not finished the research for this week. That couldn't possibly be what it is. So definitely not that. But the reason that we are doing the stream on Saturday Saturday this week, is that, as all of our American viewers probably know, there is a very, very important set of football games tomorrow afternoon, and we're Philadelphians, and our team is in those games, one of those games. So we, I don't know, if you've never really partied with Philadelphians regarding football, it's kind of an experience. You probably know the Buffalo Bills have a reputation. Philly's kind of similar. Not quite as insane. Okay, not as insane in the same way. We're more of a violently insane, whereas I feel like the Bills are more of a, throwing caution to the wind insane.
Yeah, ours is just a step beyond that. That's the thing.
We just are insane.
Yeah. No.
So yeah, if you're a Philly fan, drop a Go Birds in the chat. I'm curious. I like how last night when we were doing Phasmo, 3 of us were named Aiden, and then it was just PJ.
Yep.
That was that. Okay, but yeah, so obviously the title of this stream, not quite what our normal stuff is. We're usually telling you a story. I'm going to tell some stories tonight, but it's going to be more in regards to kind of the ethics of the missing 411 phenomenon, of some stuff regarding the boy in the box case, which, just to come out and say it, we were right, and the Philadelphia Inquirer came out 2 weeks after we put our video out, and it got 200,000 views.
I just love that their credit to us was reporters for the Philadelphia Inquirer, along with some internet sleuths, figured out who the parents of the boy in the box are. It's like, oh, thanks. Thanks for that really just direct recognition. Appreciate that.
It's just... I'm pretty sure more people watch us than read the Inquirer anymore, so I'm not too mad. But, it's a dying newspaper.
Yeah. Well, we can say, just because I studied I have a degree in journalism from NYU, so I have a little bit of authority when I talk about this, but part of the reason why we made the decision to not actually give the names of the parents was because, all of our information was done on the internet. We didn't get actual confirmation in any interviews, so there was that mild hesitation, even though we were very confident in the fact that we were right.
And we were.
But secondly, because they're private figures, we would be at risk of legislation being brought against us
Litigation,
yes. Due to libel law, hopefully not legislation, which might result in legislation.
The Lore Lodge Act.
Yeah, right. No, but we might be subject to litigation purely due to the fact that if a private figure has any form of libel against them, which our video would have, qualified because it would have been a publication, would have been somewhat defamatory to that family, this, that, or whatever. They don't even have to prove malice. They would just have to prove negligence. And by naming
if they were public figures, it would be a little different. If they were politicians or something like that, because this is a private family who, up until very recently, probably had no idea that they were even involved in this. We wanted to be a little bit more careful. We didn't want to accidentally say the wrong thing. I think technically we could have said it is our opinion based on the facts at hand that these people are the parents. But at the risk of, putting them in a bad... It was, for me, it wasn't even about journalistic ethics. It was it was more of just being conscientious. I just want to make sure that these people are, and I don't know if the Inquirer talked to them. I don't know if the Inquirer got their okay on it.
In the article, they did get confirmation from, I believe, at least one member of the family.
Gotcha. All right.
So...
Yeah, so we probably could have... We chose not to. I considered reaching out to the Zarelli family, which was the correct one. I considered reaching out to them, but part of me was like, they're already going through so much. That the last thing these people need is some, 2-bit YouTuber. Calling and asking, hey, did your parents, give away a child who got murdered? I didn't want to do that to them. And at the time, it's not like... At the time, we only had 80,000 subs. We were getting 10, 15,000 views a video. It was not... We weren't really, breaking any sort of, information that was going to be huge for the public. All we could possibly do there was put out the names of a family who weren't prepared to deal with it publicly. So we didn't. And I think we made the wrong choice. I think we made the right choice. in doing that. I don't know what the Inquirer's reasoning was, but that is something that I'm a little frustrated with. Not that I'm a little frustrated that they did it, but it seems like they had permission. So more frustrated that you got people in your backyard who did your legwork and you're not going to credit them.
Yep.
Like, you're telling me, because here's the thing, guys. This case has been going for 65 years. 65 years.
Yep.
They probably knew Joseph Augustus Sorelli's identity before we did. Since journalists always have their inside sources, you've got people at the police department who probably told them, probably were like, here's how we want to spin this, here's what we want the narrative to be when it comes out. Like, they've got entire press corps for this.
Yep.
Between the journalists and the government. So I'm sure they knew before we did the identity of Joseph Augustus Sorelli. They probably could have come out and said that immediately after he was named publicly. Well, if here's what gets me, I guess. If the Inquirer's people knew his identity, knew the identity of his parents before we put the video out, then they probably would have come forward with it immediately. I think that because it didn't come out until 2 weeks after we put our video out, there's just no way that's
what I was going to say. I was like, the likelihood that they had that information but decided not to put it out until 2 weeks after we said something is low.
Yeah.
I find it more likely that, considering you did the vast majority of the bulk of that research.
Yeah.
You put those pieces together, we put it out there, and then they saw that, or somebody saw that and sent it into them.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, they're on this. We're going to take it just one step further and confirm it with a member of the family, so that way we can say we figured it out.
Exactly.
So
it's just dirty. I don't like it.
That's journalism.
It is what it is. Yeah, exactly. Sure as I'll drink to that.
Yep.
Speaking of drinking to that, these are maple syrup old fashions. I haven't tried it yet. How is it?
That's nice. It's not as syrupy as I would have expected. You could probably put a little more in there next time, but
probably
it's still good. It's still good.
It might have also collected at the bottom.
Yeah, that's true. The man knows how to make an old-fashioned, I can say that.
I do make a good old-fashioned.
He makes pretty much anything in the kitchen he's good at. That's just the thing.
Us Italian boys in our kitchens.
Yeah,
my parents taught me everything I know.
I'm Irish, English, and German. There's not a whole lot of hope for me in there.
Yeah. It's okay.
Yeah.
I'll teach you.
Thank you.
But, I think that was a good segue into what we're talking about today, which is ethics of true crime, unsolved mysteries, things like this that affect people. When it's a mystery from 100 years ago, if it's a 50-year-old cold case, like the Boy in the Box thing, that's why we had no problem naming Marjorie Davis and James Davis and Martha Davis. They're all dead. I did the legwork. I researched it. I made sure that there were no living offspring. We felt comfortable doing that.
Yep.
So for people who are long dead, or even stuff that happened a really long time ago, it's not really, you don't have to worry about that ethical aspect of, am I going to cause any harm?
Yeah.
Because all you're really causing harm to is a person's legacy. And to be honest, that doesn't matter to them nearly as much as it would matter to the people that they that followed them.
If anything, I wouldn't say that there's a right, but I would say it would behoove the general populace as a whole that if someone did something badly and their legacy does not include that element of their life, it's important to be able to put that out there for the victim's sake, just so that way their experiences can be validated.
Stirring this though, because I just realized it might be the fact that I poured the whiskey in on top.
Fair.
Stir. You guys like that sound? You guys like that?
We're actually turning this into an ASMR stream. I hope you're ready for it.
A little right in front of the camera. So that is one of the things that I've started to think about as we've done more and more of these missing 411 cases, is these are real people. Most of these happen in the last 50 years. The Dennis Martin case being the outlier, and even that's only 54 years.
Yep.
So, there's a legitimate concern with that, and it led me to think about some stuff. Also dealing with people on Reddit who talk about missing 411 led me to think about some things. And looking back at the Tom Messick case, when we went up there and we talked to people and seeing, the way it actually does, it is something that the community recognizes. I was looking through some of the comments on the Matthew Green video we did, where there were people who were like, he was my math teacher. These are real people with real lives and real stories. And how do you cover that in a way that is respectful and conscientious, and I think we've done a good job.
Oh yeah.
One thing that a lot of people, probably the most common criticism we get regarding the ethics of what we talk about is the jokes at the beginning of the videos. But the reason we give you the joke at the beginning of the video is because oftentimes these are horrifically sad stories, and we gotta start off with some sort of levity, because if we don't, the video is just gonna be really depressing.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you ever watch one of our Missing 411 videos and you're like, I appreciate the research and the sincerity put into this, but the jokes are kind of rubbing me the wrong way, I would ask you to understand and to remember that when I'm researching for these, I'm spending a week digging into the horrific ways in which somebody may have died.
Yeah.
Or the fact that somebody spent their last week alone. The Boy in the Box one was pretty traumatic to research, if I'm being perfectly honest, because I had to read through so many accounts of awful things that happened or could have happened. So the reason that there's jokes in the videos is not because we think it's a funny matter, but rather because, there's a lot of emotional baggage to doing this job, and that's kind of how we let it out and try and keep you guys from feeling the same sense of like trauma that we tend to feel when we do these things.
Well, and that's the big thing, is because these are important stories to be told for a lot of different reasons, and not only for our sake, but we understand from an audience perspective that despite how important these can be, especially things like the Boy in the Box and everything, even just watching that video or consuming that information can be really like hard hitting. And so, we want to make sure that the audience is getting a little point of levity now and again to be able to make it through the whole video, not just, for any of our sakes, but because these stories are important to know and understand. So that way, especially for Missing 411, considering it is a pattern-based phenomenon, to be able to go through those stories and find all of those patterns, understand them. That way, we can hopefully find ways to minimize how many of these occur in the future.
Yeah. And it's just... and that's not to make any excuses. Like, I'm sure there have been times where maybe we made an off-color joke and it ran wrong, and I totally understand that. My apologies for the times it's happened. This is not an apology stream, by the way. Yeah. Like, I know it's kind of sounding like that, but it's the reason that I'm criticizing us is because I don't want to call other people out about it. Not saying that there's anybody on my mind necessarily who does this a lot. Just
good to avoid being a hypocrite when you can.
Exactly. So I'm not going to come out and throw stones when we may be in a glass house. Like, that's not the idea here. The idea is to take accountability for the times we may have messed up and our thought process on these things, so that when you see other people do it, you might understand where they're coming from. Then you can kind of make a judgment for yourself of, is what I'm watching disrespectful, or is this sort of a way of coping with the heavy material that's going on? Is this a way, are they making this easier for me? We're never trying to make a joke out of these situations. We're not saying they're funny. We're trying to make a serious video something that is also light at the same time. So that's why, and I think another thing is that I've started doing is trying to insert like good parts of the story. For example, the Garrett Bardsley case, how obviously horrific that this 12-year-old boy just disappeared off a trail. Completely horrific for his family, his friends, all of that. But there was that silver lining of this entire community of Provo and Salt Lake City came together to look for the kid. So I'm trying to highlight those kind of good things. And I think that's one way that this can be talked about, where it isn't just profiting off of somebody's misfortune. It's, tell the bad story and give people the warning about these things can happen, and they do happen, but also include, but here's something that really brought out with like the Mount Marathon one, where we talked about how everybody in town went up that mountain looking for the guy. Garrett Bardsley, obviously, this one we're doing for this coming Friday. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Like, the first 10-15 minutes of the video are probably going to be just the story of this guy's life, because he was such an incredible individual. And, I think that that's something we need to start doing, that I've tried to do more and more as we've gone through these videos, is to highlight the good things about somebody. Kenny Veach, obviously a very troubled man, but I wanted to make a point of talking about the bright spots in his spirit, how he seemed like a very kind man. I think that that's something that true crime, unsolved mystery, anybody dealing with real people and the events that happen to them, even if it's just historical subjects, like individuals throughout history who have done things, I think it's one of the ways that you can be more ethical and more appropriate with these stories is to always try and include, a positive about the person or a positive about the community. And, that's, this all comes from conversations I've had with other people in the space at this point, but,
Well, it also kind of reflects a lot of the backlash that the new Dahmer series got, or I guess relatively new Dahmer series got, in the sense that, that's exactly what they tried to do, but, they got a lot of flack for the fact that it's just another Dahmer story.
Yeah.
And even though a lot of that series was focused on specifically the victims, getting to know them, understand their lives, and try and highlight the fact that it wasn't just that he racked up this many kills and he was a crazy person. It's that, no, these are true, genuine people who lost their lives to a severely troubled and malicious individual.
Yeah, it's important to. I think that's exactly it. These stories are important. They're important to tell, and it's not even necessary that you do try and tell it in an ethical way. Like that's the thing. From a profit motive, like, there's really very little reason to be.
Oh, you mean somebody else if they just wanted to tell and make money from it? Yeah.
Like the Dahmer thing. They could have covered it in a very, very unethical way. I actually don't know much about the series. I know there was some backlash over it.
Yeah.
But, like the Ted Bundy movie with Zac Efron. That one, when it came out, was super popular. When the Dahmer series came out, I saw a bunch of articles that went back and looked at it, and they were like, yeah, this was gross. I think, it came out a little earlier. It was, 2018, 2019.
Like that, yeah.
People were a little bit less sensitive about everything 4 years ago. I hate that 2019 is 4 years ago.
I think another part of it is also that there's been less fictionalized or semi-fictionalized cases of Bundy, whereas Dahmer, there's been like a movie every 5 or 10 years.
There's a lot. The Dahmer thing's weird.
Yeah.
It's a weird obsession, but it's when that came out, I started looking around and it was like, all right, there's a way to do this, a way not to do this. And what I mean when I say there's, from a profit motive side, from, when you're a producer, a studio trying to make money is your first and foremost thing to do. When you cut certain things, when you change storytelling elements, when you dial back on stuff for the sake of respecting somebody, like respecting the victims, respecting their families, all of that, there is a chance you're cutting profit by doing that, because you're not telling the most interesting story necessarily. Because let's be realistic, biopics always exaggerate.
They always exaggerate and they always cut things. But honestly, in terms of a journalistic standpoint as well, that is something that even with written journalism, with exposés or with cover stories or anything like that, that's something that happens as well. And you are encouraged in journalism school and working with papers and things like that you have to trim the fat, as they'll say. Yeah. Because you have to get to the meat and bones of what your angle is. It's not necessarily what the story is. It's what's the story that you're trying to tell about this story.
Yeah. And I think there are some people who do it very well. There are some people who don't.
Yep.
But my point in saying that is not to say, that anybody's right or wrong for doing it. It's just to, acknowledge that when people do tread lightly on these subjects, very often they are cutting into their own profits. Because you could absolutely tell a more interesting story by throwing caution to the wind. People are doing the right thing by being respectful, and I think that what I like is that what we're seeing, I think, is the appreciation for that by the community, by the viewers, is that a more fictionalized account of something like this might be interesting. Throwing in a few details to hook people might be interesting, but then where are you? Like, have you even told the real story? What have you done? Are you making a documentary? Are you making a fiction? Like, are you basing it off of something? The Disappearance of Kenny Beach, there was a movie made called like Horror on the High Desert, which got a lot of criticism because it didn't say based on a true story. It didn't pay any homage to the guy it's literally about. That they ripped off the story of his disappearance and likely death. They don't acknowledge it at all. Like, that's a really bad way to handle it, So I think there's that. As far as, this goes into our specific space, kind of bringing it out of true crime and into the missing persons kind of side of things. This is another place where David Paulides has gotten a lot of flack. And I'm going to do something weird here, which is I'm going to defend David. I don't always do that, but when I first started looking into the missing 411 stuff, it was because of Mr. Ballin. I was watching, I remember it vividly. I was at work. I was listening to some, park ranger stories, creepypasta stuff on like Dark Somnium and Creepypasta. Two great channels, by the way. Dark Somnium for horror story narrations. Creepypasta is all of it. Fantastic. He is so cool. Such a good guy. From reading his comments, we were going to try and get him on the show. He got busy. He was recording an audiobook. Swamp Dweller obviously has been on the show. He's a really cool dude. We've collaborated with him, and Creeps McPasta. Those are 3 of my favorite creepypasta reader channels. So if you're interested at all, check those guys out. But you know, that I was listening to those, and then Mr. Ballin came up because he was telling some similar stories, but these ones were real. And I started listening to him, who of course he had taken Paulides' content, distilled it, and done it as storytelling instead of a book.
Yeah.
And at first, from what I understand, and he talked about this a little bit when he was on our show. By the way, that episode is only available in audio form.
Yes.
Because it really screwed up our algorithm on YouTube for like months, I think.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure the reason we had so much trouble growing early on is because of that.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, that's why we took it down.
A lot of people came, watched that video, and then never watched anything we made.
Yep.
Ever again. So we had to take it down. But it is available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, all that.
Also, didn't you just upload new
Yes, I did
episodes?
just upload new podcast episodes, and I'm out of them, so we need to download more of them.
Perfect, that's fine.
And do that. I can do some of them if you want to do some of them. That way we'd split it up. Yeah, so Mr. Ballin telling Dave Paulides' stories. From what I understand, early on, Paulides was cool with it. I don't think this is specifically what John told us, but what I was reading is that there was an interview that John gave, Mr. Ballin, where he was asked about the missing 411 stuff, and he talked about it, but he did not shout out David Paulides, or the journalist, the interviewer, whoever edited it together, didn't
cut it out.
cut out the mention of Paulides. Paulides got upset about it, and now Mr. Ballin doesn't do missing 411 stories anymore. We seem to have flown completely under David Paulides' radar. I don't feel bad about covering these stories, especially because we don't use his research.
Well, I think that's a big thing that you should kind of focus on for a moment, because early on we did what research we could on a, as much.
It was very surface level.
Yeah, but it was a surface level thing, and now it's a lot deeper. It's almost all primary sources.
Yeah, so if you go back and watch our Missing 411 videos from before, I want to say June 2022, those ones are typically based off of the like Strange Outdoors articles, notes we took for Mr. Ballin videos, the Missing 411 documentaries, where I basically looked up all of the content specifically on these cases, took notes, compiled it, and then fleshed it out kind of more than any of those people individually had done, was the idea.
Yep.
Was to tell the full story as it's been told before. 411 viewers. That's funny. So around the time we did the Tom Messick documentary, and we went up there and we talked to people, and we started hearing from people about like, well, here's how things really work out here, and here's what we saw, here's what people who took part in the case saw. What we realized was that there were some things that were not properly included in the Missing 411 books. And as a result, Mr. Ballin's stuff was not totally accurate to the truth, nor was Strange Outdoors or any of these other groups that cover these things. And that kind of was a wake-up moment where, oh, okay, if we're gonna really do this right, we need to start researching it ourselves.
Yep.
We started doing that. And then what I found was certain instances like Stacey Aris.
Yep.
Basically, every version of that story that you find on the internet is going to say that they found her lens cap near the lake. Not a single mention of it. Not in the publicly available National Park Service files, not in any of the contemporary reports, not in any of the witness statements, not a single person at the time in, what was it, 1983?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, 1981, I think. Not a single person at the time mentioned a lens cap. In fact, the National Park Service and everybody searching said they found literally no evidence, I think was the term used, of anything at all. Now, maybe the National Park Service was lying. That is possible. And I would not put it past the reporters to not go check.
But the question is, where did the lens cap thing come from to begin with? Exactly.
I believe that Paulides spoke to some people and somebody told him about a lens cap. Point of the matter is, it's not a verifiable fact.
Yeah.
So I didn't include it. And what we started doing was anytime we came across an aspect of these stories that David Paulides didn't include, that he added without citing anything, every time that we've done a story, we've found at least one thing, I think, that David Paulides did not mention. For example, Aaron Hedges. And this is one we missed. This is why we're probably going to redo our Aaron Hedges video. Aaron Hedges was detoxing from like drug addiction and alcohol addiction. So,
which is a huge factor in that case.
Yeah. Now, granted, would that cause him to do what he did? In my opinion, no.
No.
But there are a lot.
Contributed.
It may have contributed, but more importantly, by not including that detail, Paulides totally opened the story up for people to criticize it and say he's full of shit.
Yeah.
You know, and that's not the idea here.
No.
So I think that's where Paulides is really screwing up. It's not that I think that he's being disrespectful. It's not that I think he's being immoral or even like unethical. I don't think he's actually doing anything that's against journalistic ethics.
Oh, it's not. Well, within journalism, there is, I can't remember the exact rule. It's probably in my notes here somewhere, but there's a protection for journalists in general where you do not have to get every single detail of a story correct because it's assumed due to the nature of, you know, just kind of dynamic and changing information, you're not going to get everything right. And granted, it is, you know, it's important that if you get something like major wrong, you put out a correction. But it's assumed that not every detail may be accurate and not every detail may be included in a story. We just have it in our kind of, I don't necessarily want to say moral code, but it's almost a kind of our mission statement to try and get, rather than get it first, we want to get it as accurately as possible. We
want to tell you the truest possible story about unverified things.
Yeah.
That's kind of what we're doing at this channel is like, that's why when we talk about folklore, I always try and bring it back to like a historical topic of, all right, well, you know, the Haudenosaunee, Haudenosaunee, I'm trying my best. You might know them better as the Iroquois. The Iroquois have a legend of the stone giants, which they have an Iroquois term that I still can't properly spell. They have a story of stone giants that talks about these large creatures that wear stone garments and have pointy heads and, you know, come from the south, and they can be either violent or helpful. They're cannibals sometimes. If you look at the timing of the story, it's entirely possible that's a description of Europeans at Jamestown. Or at Roanoke even. Because during the Roanoke expedition, the first one, because we got to go back and finish that video. Roanoke, the Roanoke disappearing colony thing that you hear about is not the first attempt at settling Roanoke. There was one before that ended in conflict with the natives. At one point during that first expedition, they sent a group of men north into the Chesapeake to try and find, you know, help, somewhere better to live, all that. And they ended up encountering hostile Native Americans, and then they fled south. Those people may well have been wearing metal chest plates, and helmets of the time typically had that swooping conquistador style that pointed. It sounds very much like a description of Europeans in armor.
And that was generally what century?
That would have been the 1580s, I think.
Okay.
Because I believe that the Roanoke colony, the second one, disappeared in the 1590s. I think the first one was the 1580s. So by the time you're getting these stories from the Iroquois, which these were written down around 1900, the ones that I was reading, by the time you get those stories, it's been almost 300, it's been a little over 300 years.
Yeah, and if we're talking about oral history, that's plenty enough time for things to morph a little bit.
Exactly. You know, and especially for something that small, that was probably this like weird incident that happened to them once, and just because it was so strange, captured the popular imagination. So you look at something like that, you know, there's a very real possibility that that is a depiction of a historical thing. You look at some of these stories of the Wendigo, for example. Is that a taboo based on the idea that cannibalism is bad, and it's a ghost story to tell the kids at night so they don't eat people? Is that a description of individuals who actually belonged to some sort of wild tribe? Is that a description of a disease, like a prion disease that you get from cannibalism? There could be any number of things, or, you know, maybe there is a Wendigo. Like, maybe that's a real thing. And a ton of things that we have in modern existence started off as magic. So, you know, chemistry began as alchemy. Like, with all of these stories, there's usually a through line of truth. So what we try to do at this channel is give you the truest possible account of something that didn't necessarily happen. is the story we got the real story? And when we do the missing 411 stuff, we find that often Paulides has included stuff that either didn't happen or didn't include stuff that did happen. The Dior Kunz story from the first missing 411 documentary out of the two, basically everyone believes that his parents killed him. Or that, like, he got lost and they couldn't find him and they, like, didn't care enough. Like, basically everyone believes that there was foul play. Paulides did not include that information, and he deliberately kind of made it seem like that wasn't the case. Because it fit his narrative. And that's the kind of thing where I'm like, all right, look, come on. you know? The Tom Messick one, I don't think we found anything that he necessarily added or omitted, right?
Well, no, there was he just this comes back.
History Daddy said he's thirsty. Do we have any coffee recommendations?
Oh, of course we do. And then I'll get to the one thing that was not necessarily omitted, but just may not have been known to him when the initial thing was happening. Yeah.
So we have coffee. We have Mount Pocono Perk.
We do.
It's from Tableau Roasting Company. You want to go grab one?
Yep,
all right. I will throw up the link to that in the chat. Tableau. Yeah, we have a coffee blend. I was a barista for a long time, about 6 years, on and off in college as well as in high school.
Mind if I steal another ground one because I'm out?
Yeah, go for it. And I kind of designed this flavor profile for this thing.
We have ground and we have whole bean.
It comes ground, and it comes ground in, I think, actually I can let you guys know. Comes in French press, drip, pour over, and espresso, or whole bean. So I will.
This is.
There we go. It's sent.
Cool.
Yeah, so if you want to get our coffee, that's one way that you can support us, as well as supporting Matt, who does it for us. Stuff is delicious. Oh, it smells so good. It smells so good. It's ridiculous. I have like 30 bags of it sitting in my house because I bought samples. It's fantastic stuff. I would recommend, if you have a grinder, getting it whole bean because it'll keep longer. But, so we have coffee. Little coffee commercial real quick. And if our coffee hurts you, you can call Morgan. That's been fun.
Yes, it has been.
We're having a lot of fun with the sponsorships.
We are. It's honestly really entertaining.
Yeah, we're having a good time. But what were we talking about before that?
So the one thing about the Tom Messick case that wasn't included in the original Missing 411 stuff, and this is again comes back to the journalism assumption that you're not going to get every detail, is that we had at least one person claiming that the original story of that person going missing on the hunting trip in the forest by Brant Lake was not accurate because supposedly Tom Messick was never up there, at least according to certain...
Some people had the theory that he was not out there.
Yeah. Or if he was, that he could have fallen into a sawdust pile or a lot of different things.
Now, don't get me wrong. The Tom Messick case is still super weird. There's another person who's investigating it who I've been in contact with on Reddit, who seems to have gotten further than we did.
Oh, nice.
I think they had some pull within like law enforcement, so they were able to get some people to talk to them who simply would not talk to us.
Yep. Yeah.
One person commented on the video, they're like, "Why would the FBI talk to you?" And I'm like,
"It's a great point.
It's still weird that they wouldn't."
Yeah.
It's weird that they didn't say anything at all. They could have refused to comment.
To be fair, it doesn't surprise me considering a lot of the times they'll say we're not allowed. I mean, it's because it's true. They're not allowed to comment on active investigations.
They didn't even say that.
Really?
Yeah.
That's just weird.
They literally, I called them, submitted the question, sent them an email as well, did all of the proper process for a press question to the FBI, emailed to their press correspondent, called their press people, and they were like, "Yeah, we'll get back to you." Called 2 weeks later because we were about to go to do the documentary, and I call them again, and they're like, "Oh yeah, no, we never got to it." And I was like, "Are you gonna?" And they were like, "Probably not." And I was like, "Do you have do you have any comment that you could give me?" You have no comment. And he's like, "We just aren't gonna get to it." Yeah, he's like, "We're just not gonna get to it." I'm like, "Oh, okay."
I mean, to be fair, they have no incentive.
Yeah. I know. They have no incentive to tell us the truth.
Yeah.
It's the FBI.
Or even just put in effort, because they may not even be familiar with the case. They might have just been like...
Well, they went to the effort of killing Martin Luther King. I figured they would at least talk to me.
But again, that benefited them. So.
Yeah, true. What? I'm not gonna pretend they didn't.
I mean, fair. It's just,
I mean, okay, fine. They may not be the ones who shot him, but they did tell him to kill himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, J. Edgar Hoover, what a guy. By what a guy, I mean what a horrible guy.
Yes.
Also, we will get to super chats at the end of the show, which is coming up in 15 minutes. We'll do the Q&A.
Wow, that went fast.
Yeah, I know. I just really quickly want to cover like these last little bits about it, because I've been very critical of David Paulides recently, but at the same time, I do want to give the guy some praise. I know I said I was going to defend him and then went on to kind of be like, hey, he leaves a bunch of stuff out. That's not cool.
I mean, we're not assuming malicious intent on that.
No, I don't think he's doing it for the purpose. I think that he has a theory.
Yeah.
And I think he is trying to prove that theory. Maybe he's looking at this information and going, to the uninitiated, this is going to make it seem like I'm full of it. And so he's giving the uninitiated a version of it they can accept. And by uninitiated, I mean the people who haven't, like, understood the whole thing. Like, if you're somebody who believes in aliens, and you go to somebody who has, like, kind of vaguely heard of Area 51, and you start telling them aliens are real, they're immediately gonna be like, I'm sorry, what? No, you don't start with their embalming alien corpses at Area 51, and they've got, like, a Bob Lazar's story. Sounds absolutely nuts if you know nothing about any of it.
Yep.
If you don't know about government secrets, if you don't know about, the stuff the government was doing in the 1950s, all the weird experiments with nuclear reactions and plutonium.
When you hear Bob Lazar going off about element 115 using the machines that are in the spaceship to hover and accelerate whatever, and you're like, I'm sorry?
No, you don't start there. You start with Roswell.
Yes.
You start with, in 1947, an unidentified flying object crashed, and they said it was a weather balloon incident, and then pictures came out, and it very clearly wasn't.
Yep.
Now, do you immediately make the claim, the assumption that it was an alien craft? No, because it could have been, it could have been a new type of airplane that they were testing. Yeah. Could have been any number of things. People talk about little gray men that they found in there. I've never seen pictures of the little gray men they supposedly found in there.
To be fair, if it was just like a military testing mission gone wrong, aliens would have been great cover.
Oh, yeah.
So...
Yeah. But you tell them about Roswell.
Yeah.
And then you tell them about how secretive they are about Area 51. Like the fact that nobody knew it existed for a really long time.
Yep.
Because it was out in the middle of nowhere. And then eventually people started to figure it out because of satellite imagery and people flying over it and stuff like that. So you start with there, and then it's, also, in 2017, the Pentagon released a whole bunch of information about UFOs, saying basically, yeah, we actually don't know what these are. And then, Tom DeLonge goes on Joe Rogan's show and is like, yeah, the Pentagon was kind of like paying me to be an ambassador for, like, prepping people to learn about the fact that aliens are real.
Well, do you remember once, like, when COVID initially hit and the Navy pilot videos came out? And it just got buried because everyone was so focused on the pandemic that, like, I don't know if you guys have ever seen that, but there's videos from Navy pilots where they literally are encountering a UFO. I'm not going to say it's aliens, but it's a UFO in the sky, and you can hear the pilots through the intercoms. They're like, we're talking to each other, like, are you seeing that? Like, what is that?
And they all sound like cowboys.
Yeah.
Are y'all seeing this? Yeah. And you see it, and it's like on infrared imagery. You're like, you're looking at the heat sensing tech, and it's showing you some sort of object that's like zipping around in ways that our aircraft can't.
Yeah, no, the G-forces would kill any human pilot.
Yeah, so like, what is it? Is it a drone? Is it a spacecraft? Whose is it? Yep. It's not ours. Stuff like that. It's just weird, and you don't know what's going on. So it's that kind of thing where, like, I think what he's doing is, I feel like David Paulides is the Tom DeLonge in this situation. He's not necessarily the Pentagon is paying him. I don't think they are. The government seems to be actively trying to stop him, or at the very least, actively trying to prevent him from getting his hands on information that could help him.
Yep.
So if you look at that, I think what he's doing is he's making it interesting enough to get people like you and me talking about it. Because he's going to get a whole bunch of people who are interested. Yeah. The Coast to Coast AM type people, the Bigfoot people. David Paulides is a believer in Bigfoot, by the way. I haven't looked into his specific work on it. Somebody implied that his opinion was the same as ours in that last video. that like these Bigfoot legends might come from a tribe of wild men who existed out in the forest.
Yep.
I don't know if that's his opinion. I don't know if he's more on the like Bigfoot being a giant ape kind of deal, or
Yeah.
Bigfoot is an ethereal being kind of track. But, you know, it is important to recognize that, yeah, he does believe in Bigfoot, and that seems to be the theory that he's going with here, is like, you know, maybe these disappearances are the result of Bigfoot, because he never says it, but come on.
I do love that like, I know we go into it in the video, but just the fact that the name Bigfoot just comes from the big plaster cast of a Bigfoot. Like, I love that stories or names and, you know, phenomenons start that way.
Yeah. By the way, at the time, nobody fessed up, but the son of one of the guys who worked at that lumber mill in Humboldt County, California, claims his dad was the one leaving the footprints with a plaster giant foot.
I can't say I'm surprised.
Which could be true, could not be true. He didn't say it himself, his kid did, so I don't know, but...
I mean, at the end of the day, like, if there were beings in even that general area leaving foot tracks that large,
yeah,
I can't imagine we'd only find one once.
Yeah. And that's kind of the thing, is people keep finding stuff. Also, something that keeps happening on our videos is like the boy in the box one. A bunch of people told me that the Martha theory had been debunked. It hasn't. It's actually correct. Like, that is the correct series of events. That is what they believe happened. They're just trying to prove it so they can finally say it.
Yeah.
With the Bigfoot thing, I talk at length about this study done at the University of Wyoming by Arlen Curlin, Dr. Arlen Curlin. And somebody's like, oh, Yale and Harvard debunked that. I can't find a shred of evidence that they actually debunked it. What they said was like, technically, it is possible for a person with the perfect dimensions. You know, the people can be over 7 foot, so it is and it's like, okay, but what?
There's just overlap.
There's 2,800 people over that size in the world. There were probably less in 1972. What were they doing 8 miles off of the nearest trail?
Yep.
In the mountains. Lower.
Oh, I know, but I'm curious how much lower.
I mean, the number is, it's like 0.000038% of people or something.
Okay, yeah, the population of the world in 1972 was
half
less
what
than
it is
half
now.
of what it is
So
now.
at that time in history, there were probably 1,400 people in the world.
Yeah.
Who were over the height of 7 feet. So yeah, does the research from Harvard and Yale suggest that it's possible it was a human? Sure. But you know...
Yeah, the U.S. population then was only 209 million.
Damn, that's a lot smaller. Yep. So what's 209 million times 0.00038? 0.00038. Yeah. One more zero. Maybe there's another zero. There's got to be another zero. It's got to be 5 zeros.
795.
Yeah. So no. Simply put, no. Yeah, it's just, it's so unlikely.
Apparently, Kat is a big fan of semi-hollow Earth theories.
All right.
You learn something new every day.
Interesting. Was you sure the Earth's core might have stopped spinning? I don't know how the hell you even figure that out.
I would imagine it has to do with the magnetic field.
As said by Insane Clown Posse, can magnets, how do they work?
Well,
it's a real lyric from a real song.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, our electromagnetic, essentially protective sphere, that keeps we have a big spear that stands out front in guard of the Earth. No, but that keeps most of the solar radiation out, is formulated by the molten iron in our core. And I'm curious if...
Oh, they think it might switch. That it might...
Oh, it's going to. Yeah, I can't remember the...
No, they think it's stopping spinning because it's going to reverse directions.
Poles, yeah. All of our compasses are going to go the other way.
That's wild.
It happens every certain amount of years. I can't remember.
Yeah, it's... I know what you're talking about. There's like a... Yeah. I think we're like twice as overdue for it.
Yeah.
As we should be. But it is almost 8 o'clock, so I think it's time to go to Super Chats.
I believe you're right.
Wow. What?
It's between every 10,000...
or 50 million years.
So.
Jeez. So we're a we might be overdue, but we also might be very underdue.
Here's my question. How do they know the last reversal was 780,000 years ago? I believe they figured that out.
I have no idea. I have no idea. But to finish the point I was making before we go to Super Chats, if you want to pull up Super Chats.
Yeah. And I'm going to get it right this time.
Okay, cool. What was this? Yeah. I think what David is doing is presenting the mystery. Maybe he doesn't even realize that he's doing it. Maybe he thinks he's telling you the whole truth.
Yeah.
I think what he is doing is presenting you the mystery so that you can go on and become, and other people can start digging into it, can start getting to the real facts. Because at the end of the day, even when we do research on these, I pretty much every single time, with the exception of maybe 2 or 3 cases, we've come to the conclusion that it still doesn't make sense.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, there are some where it's like, well, it's pretty pointing to this one direction, but that's rare.
Yeah, it's very rare that we find a case where we're like, oh yeah, absolutely nothing weird actually happened here.
Yeah.
It's usually, there's still some strangeness, you know?
We're going to be starting off strong.
So we are going to Super Chats now.
So we're starting off strong with Vanita's manga reviews. I never know what the right one to say is, for $4.99. Thank you very much. Saying, prepare yourself. What happened if I give the window see the old yoinky sploinky wink wink? Thank God we save Super Chats for the end of the streams.
You will not see heaven. That is my answer.
We need to get Wendigoon.
By Allah, if you call this journalism, I will hit you with my shoe.
We need to get Wendigoon to say that and then use that in like a soundboard whenever somebody says something grotesque.
Speaking of Wendigoon, Tuesday night, Weird Bible.
Yes.
And then
what are we talking about?
We're talking about King David, the story of David and Goliath, up through his rule as king. The whole King Saul asking him for every foreskin in the tri-state area.
Some freaky stuff going on in the Bible.
Yeah, dude, it's called the Weird Bible Podcast for a reason.
Yep.
But yeah, so Isaiah will be back on for that, and then it moves to its own channel that is called the Weird Bible. If you look it up on YouTube, you should find it. It should be youtube.com/@theweirdbible.
Yes. So. Also, for anybody interested, we have 2 new channels that we launched at the beginning of the year that we're going to be starting to post within the next month. One of them is History Hut. We're bringing that back, but on its own channel now. So if you like our content, but you also happen to like history, check that out. We'll keep you updated from when that's getting posted. And then we have the Lore Lodge Deeper Lore, which is just kind of a miscellaneous channel for random things. I'm going to put my old video
Twitch stream
up there.
highlights. Twitch
stream highlights, any random video I might want to make at any point that's not directly related to mythology, folklore, or Missing 411. And same thing for you. Some skits that we may or may not want to do.
General nonsense.
Maybe some short films or some music stuff. We'll find out. We'll see.
We'll drop Pity for the Gourd music videos over there.
Yes. Okay, Caleb P for $10 US. Thank you. Says, cheers from Ohio. First time catching the stream live. Love you guys. I don't know how I read that, considering they're commenting from somewhere that doesn't exist. It's fascinating.
How are you commenting from hell? But yes, thank you. We make fun of Ohio in jest. They are our brother to the west.
Can we say this? I mean, I guess we started off strong, so...
I don't think that's... as much as I wish it were, I don't think that's against terms of service.
Jordan Vandy for $4.99 said, when does he go flop flop?
That's the sound effect you chose?
Thanks for making me say that.
Thank you for making him say that. That's really funny. Actually, I'm enjoying this.
Elijah Hetrick for $5 said, Archie, activate 515.
Oh, that's a reference to last night's Twitch stream.
No.
If you're not watching the Twitch streams, you're kind of missing out. We have a great time. Chat. Those of you who have watched the Twitch streams can attest. Our Phasmophobia streams involve usually me screaming at things.
Yes, usually. I was able to play for a little bit last night, and when PJ and I died, I was going through the journal and I was like, I think it's a they. How do we tell him it's a they? And so we got a bunch of beer bottles and cans from the house, brought them into the van, and I made a tea.
Mm-hmm.
And then I kept taking a beer can, trying to throw it at Mattis to get him to look at the tea. And he's like, it's a cross. No, it's not a like, we already tried the cross. And I'm like, I'm screaming at my computer because he can't hear me. I'm like, it's a T. It's a T. And then he finally was like, wait, is that it's not a, is that a T? Do you think it's a, throw a can out of the van if you think it's a they? And PJ and I both yeet them out of the van. And they put it in, and it was right. And we were like, there's no way we just got there. It was great.
Phasmo's a fun game because you can't communicate with the dead, but the dead can communicate with you. Like, they can hear you talking, and they can manipulate stuff.
Yes, yeah.
Like, they can't talk back, but I like that game.
It's fun.
What happens next?
Jim Slater?
Downright chilling.
Nice.
It's a reference to the streams as well.
Got it, okay. Jim Slater for £2, British, said,
What's that in kilograms?
Oh, that's great. That would be like 0.8.
They have a weird currency over there.
Yes. Said,
why do you have a metric currency?
It's a great question. We kind of already answered this question. What's your honest opinion on Paulides?
Oh, that was my honest opinion on Paulides. I think what he's doing is, it is definitely brave, because coming out publicly and saying that you believe in Bigfoot and that the National Park Service is hiding some sort of monster that is taking people, which is what he seems to imply, takes a lot of guts. Unless you're 23 and bored at your desk job, then it just takes boredom.
Yep.
But I had nothing to lose, so.
Fair. Perturbed Alpaca for $5 said,
great. Another one of those Xbox.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's gotta be
Xbox Live gamer tags.
I think mine was Disputed Owl.
Yeah, mine was something Buffalo.
Yeah, nice. For $5 said, if you can't take the light joke at the beginning of a true crime video that you yourself clicked play on, you shouldn't be on the internet.
That's fair.
Yep. Rat Juice, that's incredible. For $19.99, thank you. Said, just wanted to say I recently found your guys' content. I've been binging every day while I'm at my desk job. Are you aware if there's any missing 411 cases in Arizona / will you cover it? Lots of love from Phoenix, Arizona. Love right back.
Oh, thank you very much. Arizona. I feel like there was one that I remember.
Where was the Kenny Beach one?
That one was Nevada.
Okay.
I can't think of any in Arizona off the top of my head, but I'll go back through, and a lot of them are specific to the national parks. Like, the missing 411 stuff is kind of specific to national parks. Yep. So that's, I think, why they're so concentrated in certain areas. Mm-hmm. Like, if you look on the Eastern Seaboard, there's not a ton of there's a lot of national parks, but there's very few that are big enough for anyone to go missing in. Yeah.
There's a good amount of public land.
Yeah, but the stuff out west, where they just set aside massive, like, state-sized national parks, that's a little different.
Yeah. Jim Fish for $5 said, hi, love your videos, keep up the great work. Do you know of any 411 cases in Alaska? I feel like there would be a lot up there. I mean, there's Mount Marathon.
Yeah, the Mount Marathon, Paul LeMay.
Yeah.
That is one we've covered. The one that we're covering this week is the Yukon, so it's not quite Alaska, but it's close.
Yep. History Daddy was just the coffee one.
Oh yeah, thank you Ryan, for teeing that up for us.
Yep. Surfing Cowboy for $5 says, replay gang turn up. I'm assuming that's replays. I assume that means
people are replaying the video.
Yep.
Instead of catching it live. I salute you.
Mavic Penley for Canadian 279 says, Mr. Aidens, do you fellas like cheeseburgers?
That is precisely what we had for dinner. Yep. What I had for dinner.
Yep. I would have had it had I not had. Was I not a hot girl that had IBS today?
Oh, okay. Well,
All hot girls have IBS. But yes, we do very much love cheeseburgers. We watched too much Supernatural, and Dean Winchester was a little bit too accurate to our personalities. So.
I also just make phenomenal cheeseburgers.
Well, you make phenomenal anything in the kitchen.
Kalen, you and I both, with the Four Roses.
Nice.
Kalen, by the way, is the guy that does our music, our theme music.
Yep.
He's also helping me out with a couple of other songs. So if you like the intro music for our channel, you should check him out. He's got a lot of really good stuff. It's a lot of southern rocks and heavier stuff. I'd highly recommend.
I'm just gonna reload this because more have come in. The next one was from Spider for 99 cents. That was empty, but just wanted to make sure you got noticed. Thank you. Caleb P for $20, thank you, said, my girlfriend recently found out some of the conspiracies I believe, and while she was skeptical at first, I showed her some of Wendigo's and y'all's content, and now she questions the government daily.
As she should.
You've done a very good job, sir. Well done.
Remember, if you think the government wouldn't do that, they would.
Oh, yes, they would. Yeah. That has come up so many times on my TikTok.
That's the weird thing is now I'll hear like sounds or see clips of Isaiah, and I'm like, I know him.
Yeah,
This is weird.
It is weird. Kiefer Ginge for $2 said, love y'all so much. Love y'all right back.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hannah Sharkey for $10 said, so glad I got to catch y'all live for the first time. I've always been interested in what the Gov and Mill hide from us. I've decided to go undercover and join the Mill. I'll let you know my findings. Well,
I hope you're not using your real name then.
Yeah.
Because if you are, you might have trouble. Those background checks are extensive, but I appreciate the effort.
Yeah.
I'd go undercover in like the FBI or the National Park Service to figure this out, but I'm probably on a list.
We probably both are, yeah. If that's not your real name, keep us updated.
Yeah.
Good luck. Nix Highlander for $10 said, what are your thoughts on Carudi Mastodon? I have a fun theory that that whatever hominid was at the site is a Bigfoot species.
Yeah, so the thing with that specific site is that it's unconfirmed that it was tools that were used to kill and butcher these mammoths. Or not mammoths, mastodons. So it's hard to say. I think it's very interesting. I'm excited to see where it takes us, but I'm hesitant to look at it as a smoking gun. That said, it could be modern humans still. Yeah. It's only 130,000 years ago.
Oh, yeah, that's still...
that could well be anatomically modern humans. I think we're about 200,000 years old, right?
I think it's a little older. Let's check.
Yeah, how old are Homo sapiens?
300,000
300,000 years. So yeah, the most archaic early humans, like Homo sapiens sapiens, are 300,000 years, and then you get to the modern humans around 160,000 years ago.
Yep.
And that is, of course, so it's possible that it's modern humans.
Mm-hmm.
It's also possible that it could be Neanderthals or Denisovans, who date to around the same time period or a little bit older than us. That period where God was working out the kinks.
Anything's possible at that point. So... Matthew Moody for $6 said, love y'all. This is the first one I've caught live, and I can't wait for the new Weird Bible. Hopefully I'll be able to catch that live too.
I hope so. It's going to be Tuesday night at 7 p.m.
Yep.
And then it will be hosted after that. This is going to be the last one on the Lore Lodge channel. Following that, they will be hosted over on the Weird Bible channel. We will post updates before they go live on this channel. Mm-hmm. But to be sure that you catch them, make sure you go subscribe to that channel, hit the notification bell, all that. Oh, yeah.
Okay, just make
And you'll also get more sit-down, recorded Lore Lodge style Bible videos that are going to cover stories, history, connections through various things, general concepts. Mm-hmm. Like we have a big plan for it. So.
Yes. I just wanted to make sure that we were confirming that and good to say it.
As far as I'm aware, I think those are probably always going to be me, but it is possible we'll occasionally get a guest video from a certain partner on the channel.
Yeah. Yeah, and also, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we also brought in some different priests.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure we'll talk to priests and rabbis and everything.
Because I know at least one religious scholar who went to Trinity, taught at Harvard, and would probably be really interested to discuss things there, and then one Catholic priest that we could discuss with.
Yep.
Metal for $2. Thanks.
Thank you.
Callan Kennedy said, no question. Oh, for $5. Thanks. No question, but I'm having a glass of Four Roses bourbon per your recommendation. Great stuff. Cheers, fellas. Great stuff. Good taste. And thank you always for the music. Oh, I didn't realize you were done.
Penn State, man. Penn State. Did a number on my liver.
Fair. Jerry Wilson Messer for $6 said, just wanted to say that y'all are awesome and seem to be people I could definitely sit down and chill with. I would hope so.
Finger guns.
Are they still not cool?
Thank you.
That Dexy guy for $5 said, what are your opinions on Army E-Girl psyops?
100% a real thing. That is a real thing. They are doing it. Israel did it a little while ago.
Did they really?
Yeah, there were some like IDF cat girls on TikTok.
Oh my god!
Like here's the thing about the military.
It's just modern propaganda.
Well, what I was gonna say is, when you look at stuff like that, I need you to understand. In order for them to be doing that in uniform, doing specifically the stuff that they're doing, they have to clear that with an officer. Or more likely, the army is recruiting people for that purpose.
Yeah.
Those people, they might not even be actual soldiers. They might just be contractors that are being paid by the military.
Yeah.
But no, militaries around the world. It's not just the United States and Israel. You'll see it all over the place. Ukraine's doing it. Russia's doing it. China probably does it. So I don't think China needs to do it. They can just be like, you're a soldier now.
What better way to get like core trapped guys to join a military?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like...
yeah, it's insane.
Stay
Weird
strong,
College guy said
Kings.
he's a priest and he would love to talk Bible with us. Shoot us an email at thelorelodge@gmail.com. I promise I do check it.
What denomination are you? Just out of curiosity.
That is a good question.
Lizzie Moon for $5 said, also recently found your channel and love how y'all approach things.
Oh,
I've been binging your videos and catching streams when I can. P.S. My name is Lisi. Oh, cool. Sorry.
You ass.
What?
How dare you say her name wrong before reading the... I can't believe you would do this.
I really need to get better at reading people's minds. I am so sorry. That's on me. It's genuinely on me.
Remember when we used to say we were going to actually start reading these before we read them?
Jim Slater for 5 Great Britain pounds. I just realized what GBP probably stood for, so there we go. I feel kind of dumb for posting my Snapchat at the start. Great content, guys. Maybe one day I can get to US to hunt
Super
Bigfoot.
chat, not Snapchat.
Oh, I was going to say, like, I'll want a big iron, though. Fair. Marty Robbins would be happy about that.
You should always carry big iron when you're out in the woods.
Preferably on hip.
Yeah.
Or
low ready.
The Brewery Magician for $2 said, are there any missing 411 cases in Massachusetts or New Hampshire?
Not that I can think of, but there is the Bennington Triangle, and I want to say Vermont.
Was the Palmyra Wolves Maine?
That was Maine.
Okay.
Yeah. That's not missing 411 though. But
I just
there is the Bennington Triangle, which I believe is in Vermont. So that's something that we're probably going to check out.
Fair.
Not that far of a drive even.
Alex Lopez for $10 said, do you guys believe in UFOs? I don't think I'm convinced, especially because of the disinformation campaign by the government. Thoughts?
Do I believe in UFOs? Yeah. Do I believe in space aliens? I've yet to be convinced.
I'm a little bit more open to it. I think UFOs probably, yeah, like it would make sense. In terms of aliens or other intelligent life, I've never liked the argument that we'd either have found them by now or they don't exist. Because the universe, just our universe, is so big, it is highly probable that they are so far away that even with light speed communication, neither of our communications have even gotten to each other yet. So I think it's, to quote a movie from relevance today, if it's just us, that'd be a big waste of space. Yeah, true.
Voyager, it's Voyager 2 that just made it past the solar system, right? Like just got out.
Oh God! If it just got out of the solar system, I'd be surprised.
I think it just got out. I believe that's what it was.
I mean, that's just a great. Granted, that's not moving anywhere near the speed of light, but like that's you know.
I think I read about it either just leaving or being about to leave.
Fair. It might have been. Ethan Lurker for $4.99 said, have you ever read The Resurrectionist, The Lost Works by Dr. Spencer Black? It's kind of similar to some of the stuff y'all talk about.
I have not, but that's something to put on the reading list.
Indeed. John Crump Live for $2 said, sup, Aiden.
Sup, John Crump Live.
Sup, John Crump Live. Matthew Holloway for $20 said, as a physics major who is graduating this semester and is pursuing grad school, I appreciate your more scientific and historical approach to analyzing scripture. I'm a Christian who grew up in church and don't get that a lot.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think the division between science and religion is completely artificial, in my opinion. You know, the religion was in Europe at least, and to an extent in the Middle East and in the Islamic world, but religious organizations were the ones funding science for a long time.
Yeah,
you didn't really start to see that suppression of science until the early modern era.
Yep.
the Enlightenment, the late Middle Ages.
And it was more because it was...
And a lot of it was, the Catholic Church was doing a lot of political stuff. Yeah. So, if you look at the Orthodox Church, for example, like we've known the Earth is round for a really long time, and
from what I understand, there wasn't really a point in which
there's like a lot of fake information out there. A lot of times you'll see the term Dark Ages used to refer to the period between the fall of the Roman Empire and the rise of Charlemagne. That's not a term that we use in academia anymore. We use the early medieval period or the migration period. A lot of history up until very recently was complete BS. Archaeology has been a huge help, as well as, just the discovery of older and older documents. A lot of what you know about history comes from the Victorians, and the Victorians had a bone to pick with the Catholics. Like, there's a lot of nuance to it that you don't necessarily understand, and you wouldn't have any reason to expect it until you actually go into the history field and you start to see, oh, okay, so this is how this is done. It's part of what drives me nuts with the Tartaria people. Like, I've got one short video on here where I talk about how Tartaria is the most BS conspiracy theory I've ever encountered. And people are like, oh, you just, believe whatever's in the history books. And I'm like, no, I read the primary source documents from the time period, and not a single one of them mentions anything remotely close to Tartaria. Like, the term just is what we used before we used the term Eurasia. That's why the term Eurasia appears at exactly the same time the term Tartaria stops. Like, people are like, well, and also they can't even get the theory straight. Like, I've been saying this. I want someone to come on this show, a Tartaria believer, and debate me on it.
Yeah.
Because I think I could dismantle them before they even finish explaining their theory. Like,
and if you want to hear more about this content, check out the History Hut.
And if you want to hear more about this content, we have a podcast that I did solo back when we were in Tennessee where I talked about it.
True. We should probably move the Lost Civilizations video to History Hut at some point.
Nah, I think that's fine on here.
Really?
Yeah.
Fair enough. Weird Collar Guy for $2.
That's still in the Unsolved Mystery category.
That's fair. Weird Collar Guy, thank you for that again. Austin TW for $4.99 said, any thoughts about the Basque people being in Lang isolate, maybe language isolate?
Language.
Language isolate, old European group. Y'all aware of the Algonquin/Basque Pidgin language?
I was not aware of the Algonquin-Basque mix language. That's a new one for me. I'm going to look into that now because that's very interesting. But as far as the Basque, it seems like they're just one of the only remaining pre-Indo-European groups. It kind of goes outside of my, again, like, historians cover documented history, typically. You start to get into anthropology once there's no more documents.
Yep.
Archaeologists and historians will often work together to tie things together, as will anthropologists. But once you get out of documented history, you're starting to look more at anthropology, more at archaeology. So I don't know a ton about the Basque pre-Indo-European invasion.
Do you want to describe the difference between archaeology and anthropology for people who may not be familiar?
I mean, anthropology is specifically the study of humans and human remains and evolution, biology, to an extent, culture. Archaeology is more about the things humans made. But if you found a battlefield, both an anthropologist and an archaeologist would be interested in the bones, but for different reasons, if that makes sense.
It does, but so just to make sure I'm getting it right, anthropologists would be more interested in the biological structure of the bones.
They would be like, what was this person eating? Why were they this height? Does this blemish on the bone indicate a break or a disease? Whereas the archaeologist is going to be going, all right, well, based on this cut on the bone, that appears to be from this kind of bladed weapon. Like,
so that would indicate that they were fighting with this group.
Yeah, and then those two would write up their report, and then a historian would look at it and be like, all right, here's how this fits into the general narrative of the time. So historians are either going to kind of be the storytellers about what the anthropologists and the archaeologists turn up, or they're going to be the people who compile and explain historical documents and events. In order for a historian to work on something, if it's something that is not documented or we don't know about the document yet, we kind of need the anthropologists and the archaeologists to get that stuff dug up. So part of the reason that we have no idea what's going on with Göbekli Tepe yet is because the archaeologists and the anthropologists are still working on it. Like, the historians are kind of sitting here like, all right, okay, this is starting to make sense. keep feeding us information, and we will try and put this together in a story that people understand.
Yep.
Because archaeologists and anthropologists typically are trained more as scientists. Historians are trained almost like English majors, but not to have any of the attitude of English majors.
That's funny. Caleb P. again for $10 said, one more because I don't get to catch a stream often, and I owe you for
To be clear, that was a very, very like broad spectrum view of anthropology, archaeology, and history. I'm not saying that it's that cut and dry at all, but like that's kind of the general difference between the three. Is human or like humans, the things humans left, why the humans left the things.
Yeah,
is kind of the way it works out.
Fair.
Anthropology, archaeology, history.
Fair.
Also, history, the term actually means specifically like the act of understanding the past. It's a Greek term. A lot of people are there was a meme going around like 10 years ago that was like, you know, it's called history because it's dominated by men. What about herstory? And it's like, well, no, it comes from a Greek term, historia, which means to understand the past. Stop trying to put modern political terms over it. Like, chill.
Do research. Do research, nerd. One more because I don't get to catch a stream often, and I owe you for keeping me entertained at work. We're just glad that we can entertain you. Also, yeah, e-girl military psyops is insane. Israel went hard with it for a bit.
Yeah, it's definitely something they're trying.
It's
the one that got me was there was a video that the Ukrainian military put out recently, and it was just so obvious.
Just so blatant, yeah.
It was like not a single one of these women is actually out in the field fighting. Like, they are way too put together. They look way too like... Go talk to a soldier who's been out in the field for 2 months. They have bags under their eyes. Their facial hair is out of control. Like, these girls are wearing makeup in perfectly like fitted, slim fit BDUs or ACUs, whatever they're using right now. Like, it's just so obvious. And I'm not saying this is not to badmouth Ukraine at all. I'm just saying like it was one of the more obvious ones I've seen lately. The Israeli ones were pretty funny. The American ones are Hollywood quality, which is fantastic. But it's just so funny because that is a tactic that militaries, regardless of whose side they're on, where they are in the world, use is, well, let's show you hot women in uniform so that we get all of the depressed men to come fight for us. Like,
I mean, there was that one, the Russian military woman back in like 2014 that people started making like art about. Yeah. And she was just giving a press conference or like, I can't even remember exactly what she was doing, whether answering questions or something.
She was like a press officer or something.
Yeah. And like, she became like the talk of the town on the internet for however long.
The thing is, in the United States, we have like Hollywood. So we don't need, like they are definitely using e-girls for army propaganda. More, I think what they're doing more with the e-girl side of things is trying to entrap a certain set of beliefs. Well, like if you ever see a girl on TikTok who's really attractive and she's talking about how badly she wants to be like a housewife and raise 6 children and dress modestly and all that is a fed. Women aren't real. They're all federal agents. Don't fall for it, boys.
Stay strong, kings. Oh my god.
But yeah, so obviously that's a joke. Yes. But you know, they do that to entrap people with like dissident political beliefs, and you'll see it's not just targeting the right; it's targeting the left too. They do it to both sides. Oh yeah. You know, they're trying to preserve the status quo, and they use attractive 18 to 24-year-old women to do it.
I just hope they're compensating them well.
You know what? Get that bag, ladies. Cheers.
Catch a break. Just stay safe out there. There's some crazy people. Next would be from Gorilla Claymation 1489 saying, Aiden M, I know you listen to Christian music. How do I explain my Christian playlist going from King is Alive by AA to War Music by Impending Doom to my new girlfriend? She only listens to contemporary. Yeah, this is...
You're headbanging for the Lord.
Headbanging in prayer.
That's precisely. Exactly. I don't think it needs to be explained.
No.
It's a theme.
Yeah.
You like the theme, you listen to the music.
If somebody's going to judge you for something you like and it's not actively hurting anybody or even passively hurting anybody, that's on them.
Yeah. Like, the fact that you like Christian... Here's what I would say. Tell her you just like the music and, you know, explain what it is about the music that you like. And if she doesn't accept that, honestly, it's kind of a red flag. You know, like,
yeah,
if you were listening to, like, specifically, like, neo-Nazi death metal, that would be one thing.
that'd be a little concerning.
But
yeah.
if you're listening to Skillet, that does not require an explanation.
Yeah. Also, to be fair, if she's just like, that's not my scene and I don't know why you like it, versus like, you're weird for liking that, that's two different things. So, Nick Highlander back again for $5 said, also, any non-canonical scripture you think should be canonical? I have a feeling I know one thing you're going to say.
Enoch should not be canonical.
Really?
No.
Why?
Because it's very obviously not the original version of it.
Fair.
The version we have, it's, again, I say this all the time, we have an English translation, so the one that we can read is an English translation of an Ethiopic translation of a Greek translation of a Hebrew text. So on the off chance you read Ethiopic, you're still talking about two translations. And you're talking about likely several hundred years from the original version of it.
Yep.
The Book of Enoch, the OG Enoch story probably dates to about 1200 in terms of like when it would have been written down for the first time, if it was even written down ever.
And when were the main documents of the New Testament originally written?
Within the 1st century AD.
So within that context, that's about
I mean, granted, Enoch is Old Testament.
Yeah.
The oldest that the Old Testament seems to have possibly been written would have been like 1200 BC. People typically accept that the oldest copies that we have, and this is the oldest, I'll say this, the oldest copies that we have date to the Babylonian period, the Neo-Babylonian period.
Okay.
So the 6th century BC. Some people believe that that's the first time any of it was written down. And that it was oral tradition before that. Some people believe that that was a rewriting. And that all of this existed prior, and they were just copying it down again. Either one is possible. Because the Mount Ebal tablet that they found, I'm leaning towards these were written down for the first time around 1200 BC. Probably contemporary to the events that were happening in Exodus, Numbers, Leviticus, and Deuteronomy. Genesis is the only book of the Torah that discusses things that happened long before it was written down. And the Torah is only the first 5 books of the Hebrew Bible. It's the law. It's not the whole Hebrew Bible. That's called the Tanakh, and the Tanakh itself, that is an acronym. It's a lot to get into.
Remind me what the difference between the Tanakh and the Pentateuch is?
The Pentateuch is the Greek translation.
Got it. Okay.
Of the Torah.
Got it. Alex Lopez for $10 said, have you seen the recent JRE with Jimmy talking about Atlantis and advanced ancient human technology to cut and lift them heavy-ass stones? Very interesting.
Oh, Jimmy Corsetti? You mean the guy who doesn't know a goddamn thing about anything he's talking about?
You're going to have to elaborate on that one.
He's bright insight. He keeps insisting that Atlantis is in the eye of the Sahara, and every single time he does, he gets things just blatantly wrong and ignores it. The most recent one is he's like, there's an ancient Roman map that discusses Atlantis. Not to mention that Atlantis was long gone by the time the ancient Romans were drawing up maps, and that same map has Hyperborea and Thule on it, which are also mythical places that we don't think exist. The Hyperboreans were giants. Hyperborea means beyond the north wind. So either it's Norwegians or a myth,
or Nephilim in the Arctic Circle.
That too. But no, so like that's the problem. Jimmy is not a historian. He's not an archaeologist. He's not an anthropologist. He has absolutely no qualifications to be talking about any of this. And if you have absolutely no qualifications to be talking about it, you'd better get it right. He doesn't. And then he goes on Joe Rogan and he makes my job and Graham Hancock's job and everybody else who's actually interested in uncovering the real story behind Atlantis. He makes it so difficult because he goes out there and he just says nonsense. So I'm glad Graham Hancock goes on Joe Rogan's show because the stuff Graham is saying, while also up for debate in some cases, is far more accurate than anything that Jimmy's saying.
Fair.
The Eye of the Sahara is definitively not Atlantis. There has not been water there for 2 million years, at least. It is very far from the coast, like hundreds of miles. The dates he gives are wrong. The last he's like, oh well, at one point in history, this area of the Sahara was actually inhabitable because there were heavy rains. Yes, 10,000 years ago. 10,000.
After.
Too late. It's not Atlantis. So, you know, it just frustrates me.
Wait, I think I saw something. Oh, no. It was what you said. Maybe there were heavy rains, and I just immediately thought of Toto. Anyway, Perturbed Alpaca for $2 said, today I learned I'm a hot girl.
Well, maybe you are.
We all have IBS. Austin TW for $4.99 said, just south of Newfoundland by Cabot Strait, there's a map marker, Channel Port aux Basques.
Port aux Basques.
Near directly across from the Basque region. Whale hunting, question mark?
Okay, wait. There's a map marker, Channel Port aux Basques, nearly directly across from the Basque region. I'm going to look at that. What was it? Channel
Port aux Basques?
Channel Port aux Basques.
Newfoundland.
Okay.
And so this is in reference to the Basque people.
That is
European. I mean,
that is pretty much directly. It always bugs me so much how much further south the US is than most of Europe.
Oh yeah.
Like it feels wrong. I'm not going to say anything because it's entirely possible that the region that the town was settled by Basque people, and that's why it's called Port aux Basques. From the Channel Islands. Oh no, it was settled by people from an archipelago in England. Okay. Refers to the harbor that was a favored shelter and watering place for Basque whalers. Okay, that would make sense. How there is an Algonquin Basque dialect. Interesting.
What was it again?
It was an Algonquin Basque pigeon. I don't know how to pronounce that word. I'm not gonna lie. But it's basically a mix of two languages.
Got it. Okay. Do we have any donation goals for February? We don't even have them for January.
All right, we'll sit down tomorrow.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, while we're both drunkenly watching football.
Yes.
We will come up with.
We'll think of stuff. We'll figure
donation goals. We might have to put them a little higher than we usually do.
100%. Yeah.
We're kind of consistently hitting $1,000 a month in super chats now.
Yep.
That's weird.
Yeah. Well, to be fair,
remember that was a goal.
To be fair, when we started them, we were averaging 40 viewers. Now we're averaging 440.
Yeah,
so a little different.
Yeah. Peak concurrent viewers tonight was almost 500.
By the way, thanks for
thank you for tuning in. This is fun. 497, I think, was the highest that I saw. Damn, that's wild.
Love that. Like a pigeon, somebody said.
Pigeon, gotcha.
Yep.
Okay.
We're at
is that all of the super chat?
Ryan, stop that.
What do you say?
He said, "Go Cowboys."
No, you are wrong. You are incorrect.
Go Steelers. Go Steelers.
Ian's supporting the Steelers. Pittsburgh is part of Ohio,
Baba
as far as I'm concerned. Baba Booey Land?
Baba Booey Land. Love that.
Baba Booey.
Baba Booey.
Baba Booey.
You can tell it's a Saturday stream.
Yeah, we're vibing. I'm trying to find the... There you go.
Somebody said, any plans to start a band with Wendigoon? I don't think he plays any instruments.
Band with Wendigoon?
Yeah.
He's kind of far away.
Yeah, practice would be a little tough.
I mean, I'm sure does Isaiah play an instrument? I'd be down to jam.
I don't think so. But if he does, it'd be fun. Somebody said, whereabouts did Garrett go missing? I think I'm not too far away.
It was Cuberant Lake.
Yep. It's in Colorado, isn't it?
No, Utah.
No. Utah.
In the Wasatch National Forest.
That's right, because of people of Provo, the ones who went and looked,
Salt Lake City and Provo. Yep. So it was up in the mountains.
Mattis, when green hell, there are tribesmen who need eaten.
I wish you wouldn't eat the tribesmen. I wish you weren't a cannibal in that game. I'm down to play. I could play after the stream. Honestly, I'm not going anywhere.
Fair.
I don't know. Do you have plans to go out?
I'm not going out. I'm probably gonna go to sleep not too long after this.
That's fair. Yeah, I'm probably just gonna hang. So yeah, I'll play some Green Hell tonight if you're down.
have you guys ever covered Baba Yaga? She always sticks out to me. And
that would be a fun one to do, actually. I don't think I did a TikTok series on it, but I haven't done a YouTube.
Give us a camping video.
You're going to be getting that, actually, most likely. I can't tell you specifically why or what, but yes.
That's the plan.
If we get a certain deal, we plan to go hunting a certain cryptid. So.
Oh, the boy's going in the field this time. Alex said Aiden Destro consumes the flesh because it's funny, and Destro said can't stop, won't stop.
A camping stream would be possible if we could figure out how to do the Wi-Fi. Because
either a hotspot.
I think we'd have to get a hotspot. Yeah. Maybe that's something we should ask the guys about.
True.
Because that's something we could use as well.
That's a very good point.
I mean, maybe a certain company that we want to work with would even buy it for us so we can use it.
Do you think there will ever be a Missing 411 series specifically for all the people in cars that fell into PA potholes and were never seen again? Don't get Kat started on that conversation, but probably there should be.
Here in Pennsylvania, we have the second highest gas tax in the country and the worst roads.
Yep. I
don't understand why that's confusing.
I wonder where the money goes.
Certainly not into the pockets of politicians.
Couldn't be. Couldn't be.
I hate our state's politics.
Yeah.
It is a state that is like two different states. They're Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, State College, and then the rest of the state. The problem is those three cities have almost identical population to the rest of the state.
Yeah.
Like Philadelphia, between those three, you have about, I want to say 4 million people, 5 million people. And then the rest of the state is about 8 million.
I mean, hey.
But the thing is, throughout the rest of the state, it goes like, it's still deep red everywhere, but there's still like 33% Democrats. So every single Pennsylvania election is like 51 to 49.
Yep.
Or I think this time around it was like 50.4 to 49.6.
Yep.
Like, it just, nothing ever gets done.
At least we're not New York.
True. Yeah, it's in Pennsylvania, it's just like a constant series. For my politics, that's great. I like it when the government doesn't touch me at all. I wish they'd leave me alone. Yep. But when you want to do stuff like legalize recreational marijuana to lower the burden on our prison system, and also take people out of prison who smoked a plant, or even just were in possession of a plant.
Yep.
By the way, I don't smoke weed. Like so like, this does not directly affect me at all. But like,
I'm not into it. I don't even like the smell of it. But I think people should be able to.
I was talking to a state congressman when I was in college, and I was like, "Yeah, so why is marijuana still illegal here?" Like, and he was like, "Well, we want to legalize it, and the Democrats want to legalize it, but we don't want the Democrats to get credit, and the Democrats don't want us to get credit. So you got to wait until there's a Republican governor." Because we're never getting a Democrat legislature in the state. It's never going to happen. At least not both houses. I think House went blue this time around by like 1 or 2 seats.
Something like that.
But it's probably going to flip back once it's in 2024.
Timothy Riley, your point about saying New York should be cut in half. I've always said that I think we are now officially at a point, at least in the U.S., where cities above a certain population should be treated as city-states with their own separate legislation and governing bodies from the rest of the state that they inhabit.
I think they should still be part of the state.
Yeah.
But I think that they should have like some autonomy in that they can't determine what the rest of the state does.
Exactly.
Like New York should absolutely get to control everything that happens in New York City. Like the city of New York should get to control everything that happens in the city of New York. But they should also not be able to affect anything that happens outside of the city of New York.
Exactly.
I mean, we've been to upstate New York. It's different entirely.
Yeah.
It's like going out into the boonies. Like,
upstate New York is fantastic.
That's the weird thing is what I have noticed is when I go to cities, there's a lot of cultural difference from city to city.
Mm-hmm.
When you go out into like rural America, it doesn't really matter where you are.
No.
People have very similar attitudes.
There's some minor changes along Appalachia from north to south, and minor changes from East Coast to West Coast.
Yeah. But for the most part, rural people, it's just a different, like, kind of thing.
Yep. United Fractals of America.
Illinois would suck less if Chicago disappeared. I've been to Chicago a couple of times.
Chicago's a fun city.
I didn't love it, but I also went when I was 19 last, so I wasn't really old enough to do anything. I like going into cities for like a weekend.
Yep.
I could not live in one.
Yeah, I mean, having lived in Manhattan for 4 years of my life, it was a great experience. I really enjoyed it. But I like space and my car too much to live in a city long term.
Yeah.
At least at this point in my life.
God, I've driven the Jeep in cities. It's terrible.
Yeah, that was horrible. Driving in
I have
cities
the new one.
rural. I mean, horrible. Brutal. I saw the word rural. Instead of saying brutal, I said rural.
All right. But I'm not seeing any more super chats. It is 8:40 now.
Yep.
So
Maybe like 5 more minutes for anybody to throw in some
we'll give you guys
supers.
5 minutes if there's any more questions. We'll get super chats first, but I'll scroll through and see if there's any interesting questions.
Yep.
Yeah, no, don't worry. We're not talking about politics extensively. I don't think that was even really politics. That was like, God, I hate people.
Yeah, and the government.
Please leave me alone.
Curious question here from Elizabeth Brooks said, does everyone in PA hate on Maryland the way people in Maryland hate on PA? In my head, there's always been a huge rivalry, but I don't know if it's one-sided. Also, University of Maryland is currently above Penn State in basketball. You can talk about that. I know everyone I know...
How many games has it been since Maryland scored a point against Penn State in football? Look up when's the last time Maryland scored a point against Penn State in football.
Also, in terms of Maryland versus PA,
to answer that question,
one-sided.
You know the you know in Avengers, is it Infinity War? I think it's Infinity War Endgame, where Gamora yells, "You took everything from," or not Gamora? Who is it? Someone yells, "You took everything from me" at Thanos, and he goes, "I don't even know who you are." That's how we feel about Maryland. Okay. Okay, there we go. So, we've played Maryland 46 times since 1917. We have won 42 of those games. The last time we played them, we won 30-0.
Game results.
So
The last time...
Oh, by the way, you didn't win 4 of those. You won 3 of them and tied another.
The wins are November 4th, 1961, November 1st, 2014.
Which, keep in mind...
20-19.
20-19, but also, that's right after Penn State got sanctioned. So we couldn't provide scholarships.
The last one was November 7th, 2020.
Let's see, that's 30-0, 59-0, 70-7, 47-7. What else we got here? 57-0, 45-0, 12-0, 33-0, 63-27, 34-0, 48-0. These are not close games. Also, Penn State is not a basketball school.
Fair.
I think the tallest person I encountered there was 6'2".
Alex Lopez for $5 said, Illinois just passed an assault weapon ban the sheriff refuses to enforce. I saw that.
This is not a political show.
I did see that headline. Daniel Teague for $1.99 said, hey, can you please cover Greek mythology topics?
We can. Yeah, we can do that. I was going to bring somebody else onto the channel to do that, actually.
Would we want to cover that on Lore Lodge? Or
yeah, it'll be Lore Lodge.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll probably do at very least overviews of Greek mythology, Norse mythology, Celtic mythology. Yeah. Like, I want to go back and redo those. We did a lot of that early on. Yeah. I want to revisit it.
I think deep dives into specific stories could be interesting.
Yeah.
And if we want to do it from like a semi-historical, I'll pitch this to you right now. Would we want to tie in the myth stories into some things that were happening at the time in Greece?
Yeah, I mean, I'll definitely talk about that. Yeah.
Cool. Jacob Jones for $5 said, do you guys think there are more 411 cases in the mountains in the west or those in the east? West by far.
By far the west. But the Appalachian ones are weirder.
Yeah.
Like, the Appalachian ones are really weird.
Yeah.
The ones out west, you're like, uh-huh. The ones here, you're like, oh, that's dark. That's some sort of eldritch horror going on there.
This is actually a really interesting question. Nick's Highlander for $5 said, what do you think was the cause of all the dragons and hydra myths in the ancient world? I'd love to get your take on it, because I have thoughts.
I think digging up dinosaurs probably had something to do with it. Other than that, I don't really know. I know for a fact that nobody was encountering dragons in the medieval period.
Yeah.
Um, I think one possibility is that a lot of these stories were a couple hundred years old, and you might have had a English knight fighting against a Welsh hero, and they might have talked about, well, this knight fought the dragon, but the dragon was the Welsh guy.
Do we know the etymology of the word dragon?
It's old. It's really old, if I remember correctly. So I think that there's something to be said for that, for like symbolism in stories eventually becoming something more.
Okay.
Dragon also, it means serpent in Greek,
yes.
right?
Yeah, so I wouldn't be surprised if it is kind of an amalgamation of different traits over time that essentially formed into a being that had a number of certain traits from different animals or species and things like that, that humans found to be dangerous.
Yeah,
and so
Lucifer is also referred to as, or not Lucifer, I guess Satan is referred to as dragon in Revelation.
Yeah. So it probably just became the distillation of anything that is an embodiment of pure danger or evil or things like that. Weird Collar Guy for $2 said, we always know Pennsylvania drivers down here. Fair. Is it because we're going so fast?
One of my roommates from college was from Maryland, though. I actually do like the state of Maryland. It's nice down there.
Yep. The Mark W for $5 said, you guys ever talk to Dead_Hidden? His theories about the angels and planets are fascinating. He traced every pantheist religion back to the Watchers.
I have not heard about it. I will check it out. I have some concerns. But maybe he handles it better than I would expect somebody to. I'm so cynical about it at this point from all the stuff I've seen while doing Twitch streams.
JD Petty's calling me out here.
What do you say?
Said, funny you mentioned Dr. Peterson. Director Aiden does a great impersonation of him.
Well, you have to go to the underworld and rescue your father from the serpent.
If you're gonna understand the dragons, you have to make your bed.
Oh yeah, well you're full of snakes, bud.
Oh. Don't get me started on the lobsters. Yeah. The guy's really fun to imitate. To be fair, my impersonation's gotten worse over time because I don't do it frequently.
You also listen to him less.
Far less. Yeah.
You're not crying enough.
Yeah, a large part of it was just kind of like, make your bed, and I was like, I really should. But it did, because like, it really does start with the Kermit.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah.
That's terrifying.
You gotta bring out the Kermit and then make it Canadian, but then bring it down a little bit and then just like really get nasally with it. It's a really weird way to speak. Like, no man, it's a different place of being. Lobster hierarchies. I'd start crying, but I'm not that good at impersonation. Sorry.
I listened to myself on 2 times speed the other day, and I sounded like Ben Shapiro.
Yeah. Yeah. To be fair,
I was like, that's interesting.
I appreciate the impersonation comments about it being accurate. Yeah, part of it just comes from the fact that from a very young age I was doing impersonations. Like at 5 years old, I watched so much Steve Irwin that I could probably like voice dub him if needed be.
Rest in peace, Steve.
Oh my god, I miss him. But yeah, I like doing voices.
Don't blame the stingrays. It's not what he would have wanted.
No, it is the opposite of what he would have wanted.
Man died doing what he loved.
He did. People are going to start making me do the Peterson impression more often.
Do an entire episode as Jordan Peterson.
You just have to be an angry Canadian. It's kind of fun, though.
Yeah. I kind of get why he checked himself into rehab, though. I've been on Klonopin. That shit's rough.
Oh, my God, yeah.
Yeesh. I was prescribed it, for the record. We were trying to treat my anxiety disorder, and we tried a lot of things. None of them really worked that well.
But you're better now.
Somewhat.
Baby steps.
Baby steps. All right. Well, whew, that was,
We're gonna need a whole stream where I stay in characters, Peterson. Oh, good lord.
Finally catch Lord Lassier live, and we're doing Kermit talk. Oh, good god. Well, you did catch the tail end of the stream where Aiden and I kind of collapse into nonsense. I've got about 90 minutes of being serious in me at any given time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's... Oh, I mean, valid.
Yeah. All right. Whew. But let's say, hypothetically, that the wild men were descended from the Nephilim and were responsible for all of the missing people in the national parks.
But, like, what is the wild man? Like, is it the serpent? Like, where did it come from? We should do a skit where...
Shocking that the guy who spends all day researching missing people has anxiety.
Yeah, right? We should do a skit where you're Shapiro and I'm Peterson. And just
we did the Trump-Bernie Sanders debate on the one stream.
That's true.
What were we debating?
I can't remember.
Like the window seat or something.
The window seat's the reason for the 1% of the 1%.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well... Thank you guys for tuning in.
Yeah, I hope you didn't
Sorry
mind
we
the
switched
chaos.
up the night on you. Remember, Tuesday night for Weird Bible with
Y'all are super
Wendigoon.
weird.
Yeah. Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern on this channel for the Weird Bible podcast with Wendigoon. If you want to subscribe to the new Weird Bible channel, it is the Weird Bible. Go take a look at it. Check it out. The Mark W. TLDR, the tribe of Dan adopted the Watchers as gods, labeled Teraphim. They changed names as a tribe, spread to new lands, Norse, etc. I'm not saying no, but I also wonder if that's not limited to the Watchers, and if that could also be members of the heavenly host. There's a scripture bit where God divides the nations among the princes, those princes being presumably a class of angel, some sort of divine being that seems to be above your common angel, but below God himself. It's very important to note that Judaism was never henotheistic. It was never polytheistic. There were Jews who believed in multiple gods, but they were not practicing proper Judaism. So it's important to make that distinction that just because there were Jews, there were Israelites who worshipped other gods, that doesn't mean that the Jewish religion itself was ever polytheistic. That's an important distinction to make, and I think there's a large number of people, damn it, Clellan, who need to shut the hell up and stop trying to push their weird, like, polytheism narrative and waving their PhD in your face as if it means anything other than I'm slightly better than a master's degree.
I can't hear the phrase "shut the hell up" without thinking about the Dr. Phil clip.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, so, I think there's a lot more nuance to the relationship between the divine and the earthly world in the Bible than people quite realize, because most people don't ever read the Bible. I think only like 50% of Americans even go to church.
Yeah.
Out of 70 or so percent that are Christian. So, and I think that's kind of why we do Weird Bible, is so we can talk about those weird, funky bits that don't get talked about elsewhere.
But I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but part of the point of the Bible was really to communicate, part of the reason it's called the greatest story ever told was because a large portion of it was meant to more specifically pass down wisdom and morality and different elements of societal, ethics and things in a digestible way. Granted, there are obviously,
you're supposed to take it pretty literally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not like 100% at all times, but you're supposed to take the book pretty literally.
Yeah.
It's not just there. That's a complicated bit. There are parables in the Bible. Those are figurative. Those are metaphorical. Those are symbolic.
Yes.
When it talks about the plagues of Egypt, you're supposed to read that as these things happened.
Yes. But that's why it's the great story of told.
Now, was the plague of darkness just that the sun went out? Probably not. Was it an eclipse? Probably.
But that's what I mean by digestible stories, because it's things that were digestible in the sense of simplifying the actual events.
Oh, of course. Well, if you look at if you read Genesis 1,
yeah, it is so condensed.
What?
Yeah.
When you understand that it was given to people in a form that they could understand.
Exactly.
Especially
at the time.
There's a reason that so many religions talk about natural events, natural phenomenon, in the context that the gods were responsible. It's because the gods, in their version of it, this is what everyone believed, was that the gods told people these stories, or somebody met the gods and told them the stories back from them. It's not thunder and lightning obviously are not Zeus, but how was anyone supposed to explain how electricity works to an ancient Greek.
When they didn't know what electricity was.
They were going to say, oh, well, there's a being in the sky who is throwing heat down at you. And they're like, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like,
Now we just know that it has to do with the charge of different particles.
Yeah, which is still weird. Physics escapes me.
There's a reason why he's the historian, and I was going to say, that I'm interested in science, but I technically went to school for film and journalism. Yeah. I just like science in its own
call an enthusiast.
Yes.
But all right.
I'm something of a scientist myself.
Okay, it's almost 9.
Oh my god.
The shows when we don't have a guest are only supposed to be an hour long.
I know.
All right. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. We have got to go. But yeah, thank you for hanging out with us. Thank you for those of you that contributed, that you helped keep the show going. It really means a lot to us.
Yeah, seriously.
And we will see you on Tuesday. And if we don't see you Tuesday, then we'll see you next Sunday.
Yes.
Bye, guys.
See you.